Good morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice Radio. So today, I am going to be showing you the first ever non-GX Nihilego. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. We've never had a non-GX Nihilego before. We've had the GX. I'm quite a big fan of the GX. It's got a really cool ability. You place it down and you get instant confusion and poison. It sounded so good. Though I don't think it's really seen any play at all. Having said that, a weakness to Garbodor and the fact that it shares a weakness with Buzzwole, and pretty much everybody's playing stuff like Mew EX for Buzzwole, maybe that explains why it's not seen a huge amount of play. But anyway, I digress. The fact of the matter is, we've now got a non-GX Nihilego, and I like this one quite a bit indeed. Although these Ultra Beasts do tend to be kind of interesting. So what does it do? Well, it is a Psychic-type Pokemon, which means you are hitting weakness against stuff like Buzzwole and like Espeon, for instance, which is pretty nice. You are weak to Psychic, which does mean that Garbodor will smash you, but you can't have it all. It's got a retreat cost of 1, which is low, especially given that all the attacks are for 1 energy. And it means that Escape Board can give you free retreat. That's quite nice, because I expect that to see a lot of play post-rotation. And 110 HP, I mean, look, it's not particularly great. But for a non-GX basic Pokemon, this is about the most you can hope for. Yes, obviously, we've got Regigigas with 180. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the exception, not the rule. 110, pretty good. But what does it actually do? Well, our translation comes from the lovely David Hochmann over at Rappelman TCG and limitlesstcg.com/translations. And the first attack is probably the more interesting of the two. Although, you know, nothing against the first one. What it does for a single Psychic Energy, you can only use this attack if your opponent has exactly 2 prizes remaining. Choose one of your opponent's attacks and use that attack. This is nice, ladies and gentlemen. This is really, 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 really nice. And we've seen plenty of cards like this in the past. We saw Clefairy from Evolutions, which will unfortunately have rotated out by the time we get this. But free colorless energy. Choose one of your opponent's active Pokemon's attacks and use it as this attack. Quite nice, but it had to be active. We saw that Zoroark Break did basically the same thing for 1 basic energy, but it was on a break which was basically a stage 2. Heck, Zoroark GX basically does this. For 2 energy on a stage 1 as a GX attack, choose one of your opponent's Pokemon's attacks and use it as this attack. Oh, wait! It's literally exactly the same as Zoroark's GX attack. Now, that doesn't see a huge amount of use despite how much play Zoroark sees, because, well, you know, it's 2 darkness energy, and Zoroark decks just want to play double colorless. In fact, most of them don't even play darkness energy. But the fact of the matter is, it is a GX attack, but it's for a single energy on a basic Pokemon, and it's not a GX attack. However, it can only be used if your opponent has exactly 2 prizes remaining. That's a little bit of a pain. Although, let's be clear, it's good enough to use anyway. It's basically a GX attack for 1 energy on a non-GX. We'll use it. Because the thing is, right, if you ever come across a Pokemon that can KO itself, this is brilliant. So let's say you're against something like a Tapu Bulu, for instance. Tapu Bulu's Nature's Judgment does 120 damage, but 180 if you discard all the energy attached to this Pokemon. Great. Because now, you don't need free energy to do Nature's Judgment, you need 1. And okay, you will have to discard that energy, but you'll only have to discard the 1 energy. So all of a sudden, this is a much better version of Tapu Bulu's attack. That seems pretty good. Maybe you come across a Duskmane Necrozma. Well, Duskmane Necrozma's got an attack, which does 220 damage. You copy it, they've got resistance, you'll still do 200. You'll get a one-hit KO. Discard free energy from this Pokemon. This ruling is very important, and it basically came around when we looked at how Reshiram interacted with the Zoroark from Black and White. which had a similar kind of thing. For a double colorless energy, you could copy one of your opponent's active Pokemon's attacks. But for a double colorless energy, you used it, and then Reshiram says 120, discard 2 fire energy. The ruling here is you do 120, then you discard 2 fire energy. If there aren't 2, you don't need to. Same thing against Black Kyurem EX, and I did have a deck back in 2014. I got 5th place at the European Challenge Cup, the biggest tournament in Europe, using a Stage 1 deck playing this, and I used it to counter Black Kyurem. Black Kyurem was a giant Pokemon that had an attack which did 200 damage, discard 3 energy. So I just played Black and White Zoroark, attached a double colorless, discarded it, hit 200. You do not need to be able to discard as many energy as it says. If it says discard 3 but you've only got 1, you only discard 1. The exception is something like the old Lugia EX that specifically said if you cannot discard a plasma energy, you can't use this attack. Or if it says something like discard an energy, if you do, it does this much damage. Otherwise, you are good to go. And here's the thing, right? I've been talking about this as if it was the same as the Zoroark from Black and White, but it's not. It's like Zoroark GX. You can copy any attack on the field. And yes, you can copy GX attacks, although the usual rules apply. You can still only use 1 GX attack per turn. How do we know this? If we look at the Mimikyu from Guardians Rising, it specifically says if your opponent's Pokemon used an attack that isn't a GX attack during their last turn, use it as this attack. The rule is, unless it says you can't use a GX attack with this, then you absolutely can. And it's going to make your opponent think twice about what to bench. If they're playing a Malamar deck, for instance, they might put down a Mewtwo GX. But then again, if they put down a Mewtwo GX, they may then instead choose to use a GX attack of a Dawnwing's Necrozma. Dawnwing's Necrozma does 180 damage, should be a KO as long as they're behind on prizes. And then they get immunity the following turn. Which means you can't just attack into it. Well, if they've got exactly 2 prizes remaining, you can copy Mewtwo's GX attack from their bench to KO Dawnwing's Necrozma for 2 prizes. That's ridiculous. And of course, they've got 2 prizes remaining. You use Nihilego, they won't win the game KOing Nihilego. They need to KO something on your bench. And here's the great thing. It's while they've got 2 prizes remaining. So if you can use this to KO one of their Pokemon, and they don't take a KO the following turn, you can still use Nihilego. You can keep using this attack until your opponent takes another prize. This is a card which is going to enable comebacks where your opponent's got 2 prizes remaining and you've got 6. Because you use Nihilego to take a KO. If they can't respond, you use it to take another KO and another, and you win the game. It's amazing. This attack is so good that I am willing to say with certainty, if you are playing Psychic Energy or Rainbow Energy, you've got to play 1 copy of this. Because it's a basic Pokemon, it's only taking up 1 space in your deck, and it's ridiculously good. And yeah, there'll be those games where your opponent goes from 3 prizes down to 1 by taking a GX KO. Well, look, if they do, they do. There's nothing you can do about that. But in games where they leave this open, most decks are going to have something you can copy, and this should get you a GX KO for a single energy on a single prize basic Pokemon. There's no setting this up and leaving it on the bench. Oh, your opponent's down to 2 prizes. Ultra Ball or Nest Ball for Nihilego. Attach a single energy, and then you're taking 2 prizes. Why would you not want to play that? I am certain that this should be played in every deck with Rainbow or Psychic Energy, because the second your opponent has 2 prizes remaining, this becomes the best card in your deck. Yes, there will be the odd deck like Makago where the amount of damage they can do is dependent on how many fire energy they discard, and you won't be able to copy it, but those decks will be few and far between. And as a side note, yes, you can copy the attack from Tag Team GXs. Just leaving this out there. Now, the second attack is actually kind of useful. It's nowhere near as good as the first, but it's kind of useful. What it does for one psychic energy, same cost as the other one, automatic poison, automatic confusion. Just like the ability of the GX. It's fine. Like, as an early game attack, it's fine. It will slow your opponent down. It will force them to try and switch out the active. It's kind of useful. It's nice to annoy him in the early game. Maybe you'll get lucky and they won't be able to get out the active, so they'll have to flip for confusion and they'll keep hitting tails. There's no guarantee here, but it might work. You never know. Far more important is the first attack. It's Zoroark's GX attack for 1 energy on a basic Pokemon that gives up 1 prize. And if you don't copy a GX attack, you can keep using it. And yeah, you can only use it when your opponent's got 2 prize cards remaining, but Buzzwole Sledgehammer only does 120 if your opponent's got 4 prize cards remaining. That doesn't seem to stop them. And what you can do is what some of these Buzzwole decks are doing and just play no GXs, so your opponent has to at one point have 2 prize cards remaining. And for as long as they've got 2 prize cards remaining, this is broken. I'm giving it 5 Wassies. I define a 5 Wassie card, and it's my rating system, so I can do what I gosh darn well like, as a card that I expect to see a lot of play in a lot of different decks. Or a lot of success. And I really, really see this being the case here. If you're playing Psychic and Rainbow Energy and you're not playing this card, I want to know why. Because it's 1 energy on a basic Pokemon, and it's a ridiculous attack. And yeah, I've said that a couple of times. That's how enamored I am with this. But hey, maybe you think I'm wrong. In which case, great news. There's a comment section. Go nuts, but do remember the rule. Be nice. Very important. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at The Wassy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all of that, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. But by far the most important thing, as always, is to look after yourselves. Until next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.